HELLFEST. The film opens in a horror-themed amusement park in Orange Grove. Three friends are going through a haunted house when one of the girls, Brittany, Courtney Dietz, strays from her friends. She is confronted by a masked man who starts humming a tune while inching toward her menacingly. He stabs Brittany in the gut before dragging her and hanging her by the neck. Her body isn't found until days later due to people believing she was a prop. 3 years later, college student Natalie, Amy Forsyth, is dropped off at the home of her best friend Brooke, Rain Edwards. Natalie is displeased to see that an obnoxious schoolmate, Taylor, Beck's Taylor-Klaus, is there, as she always makes snide remarks toward Natalie. Brooke tells Natalie that a guy she likes, Gavin, Roby Attal, will be joining them. The girls join Gavin, Brooke's boyfriend Quinn, Christian James, and Taylor's boyfriend Asher, Matt Mercurio, at HELLFEST, a new horror-themed amusement park. The group goes around the park to get some good scares in. Meanwhile, the killer from earlier is lurking, now donning a new mask. The girls go through a haunted reform school where a girl runs in screaming that she's being chased. The killer enters, and the girls think he's just an actor part of the park. Natalie tells him where the girl is, and he goes to pull her out. The killer raises a knife over her as the girl begs for her life. Natalie tells him to just do it, still thinking it's part of the act, and the killer stabs the girl dead. Natalie is unnerved, and she rejoins Brooke and Taylor outside where they see an actual actor stabbing a patron playfully, leaving Natalie to think it really was just fake. Natalie joins Gavin in the photo booth where they take a few pics together. But the killer shows up to steal them before they can see them. Brooke yells at him and follows the killer, but she loses him and then gets freaked out. The group gets ready to go on a ride, but Gavin leaves them to secretly win a stuffed animal for Natalie. He tries to bribe a guy at the game stand to let him get a doll, but he refuses to give it to Gavin. He then goes to the locker room to find a doll, only for the killer to find him as well. He is wielding a mallet that he uses to trip Gavin and whack him twice in the throat before bringing it down and smashing his head. The killer then takes Gavin's phone to respond to Natalie's text. Natalie rides alone while the couples go together. The ride then breaks down, and she sees what looks like the killer coming near her. The cart pulls out, and Natalie finds that there are other men with the same mask as the killer standing around her. She nervously steps out and thinks it's confirmed that she's paranoid. The group keeps moving, still believing that Gavin is off winning a prize. They enter a haunted maze house, with Quinn and Asher going through the scariest room, and the girls enter through the safest one. Quinn and Asher get separated, and the killer finds Asher and jams a needle in his eye to kill him. Natalie goes to the bathroom and texts Gavin's phone, and she soon finds that the killer is in the bathroom too. She identifies him because of a tear in his boot. He tries to break the door to the stall open, but Natalie crawls under to get away. She gets a security guard and Brooke to go with her, but they don't find the killer. Brooke then sees the photo booth pictures and knows that the killer was there. The remaining group members then gather to watch Taylor go up to volunteer for a little show. She is set to be executed, but unfortunately, the killer is the executioner. Taylor is put in the guillotine, and Natalie tries to run and stop it, only for security to hold her back. The killer pulls the lever, and the guillotine comes down, but a fake head falls out. After the show, Taylor asks the killer to let her go, but he only tightens her straps and puts her up to the guillotine to try and decapitate her for real. The blade comes down, but only cuts the back of her neck. As the killer tries to adjust the lever, Taylor frees herself and runs out. Taylor runs toward the group crying for help, but the killer catches up to her and stabs her to death in full view of the patrons. Followed by Quinn when he runs after them. The patrons realize he's a real killer, and they flee in terror. Natalie and Brooke run into another haunted house to avoid the killer. Natalie sees that the green lasers on the bottom are triggering the scares. The killer takes an axe and slashes Brooke's leg when he finds them. But they still get away. They hide in a room full of masked statues when they find a good opportunity to fight back. Natalie comes out from behind a wall and stabs the killer. She and Brooke run out where they find the police entering. By the time they get to the back, the killer is gone. An officer tells Natalie and Brooke that they couldn't find him. We then see the killer go back to his home. He goes to his shed where he has other masks that he's used. And he keeps the pictures of Natalie and Gavin. He then walks into a living room where a little girl is sleeping. She wakes up and greets the killer as her father. And he gives her one of the stuffed dolls from the park.